Hey folks, Nathan here from Star Wars Beyond the Films and Cloud City Casino, both Star Wars podcasts, the latter of which is a gaming podcast, both at StarWarsReport.com, bringing a look at the newest of the product line agnostic sourcebooks from Fantasy Flight Games for the Star Wars RPG games. This is Collapse of the Republic. Now, whereas Rise of the Separatists was the beginning of the Clone Wars, what you've got here is essentially the end of the Clone Wars and leading out of it. You have a very cool intro here from Sam Witwer, who played Darth Maul, and Starkiller, of course. Then it gets a little bit into how to use the book, particularly in relation to the previous one. Then we have Soldiers and Politicians, which is going to give us our character options. We've got clones, Dathomirians, Carcharodons, and Harch. We're getting into new careers and specializations, including ones for the clones to widen the options for them. We have the Clone Soldier with the ARC Trooper, Clone Commander, and Clone Veteran talent trees. We have the Jedi with the General and Master talent trees. We have the Death Watch Warrior, the Night Sister, the Senator, and the Separatist Commander if you want to jump to the other side. New skills, new talents as one would expect, signature abilities. For the Clone Soldier, we have unmatched teamwork. For the Jedi, we have peerless interception. And then tools of destruction. Our chapter here will give us new weapons, new ships, new armor, and so on and so on. Basically new gear, new technology, but all sort of building off of the latter half of the Clone Wars rather than the first half. Again, because that is the theme of this book. We then have the Galaxy at War. This is going to be basically sort of the state of the galaxy. A few updated characters for this particular era, like Anakin, Ahsoka, and so on. Then it gets into things like what these different factions are doing at the time, including going into a little bit of depth with the Shadow Collective, which of course is Maul, Savage, Black Sun, the Pikes, and so on. We then get our Gazetteer, where we look at Coruscant, we'll look at Dathomir, Felucia, Kashyyyk, Mandalore, again building off of canon for the most part here, Utapau, and then Battles Across the Stars is going to be sort of our gameplay advice. Dealing with things like, okay, you've been playing for a while, how do you change things up, like shifting alliances, what if you lose the moral high ground, and so on. Also goes into some depth on what to do if you have previously experienced characters, so they've kind of been around the block, you've played them for a while, or maybe they have the background of having played for a while, and man, you just got to shake things up and keep things fresh and interesting. What do you do with them? How do you deal with betrayal, death, and redemption within this type of story? And what if you take it past the Clone Wars into that era, the dark times between the wars? What comes next? Then there's information about how to run mass battles, plenty of adversaries, and that pretty much wraps things up for us here. I would say that the gameplay advice section isn't quite as strong, I would say, as the Clone Wars, the early Clone Wars stuff in Rise of the Separatists was. I really liked that particular set of gameplay advice, though this is still pretty good, just not quite there with the other one. As far as eras to play in, I'd rather play in the latter part of the Clone Wars than the beginning, but if you want to play through the Clone Wars, maybe doing some time jumps like the Clone Wars cartoon series did to actually capture that era for your gameplay, if you got Rise of the Separatists for the beginning, you are going to need Collapse of the Republic for the end. You don't need both to be able to play, but it certainly fills out your options for the Clone Wars era.